Okay. So there are a number of young men in our church who are wrestling with the question, am I called to pastoral ministry? And they're asking all the right questions. They're wrestling through it. I thought it would be helpful if you guys, whoever wants to share, could share, how did you answer that question? What did that look like? How did you get clarity?
For me, I grew up in a Christian home and didn't consider doing ministry. There's no one in my family that did ministry. I was homeschooled through the 8th grade, and then I went to public high school to actually play baseball and was really focused on trying to do that well. I did travel sports.
Pitcher?
I was a pitcher and first baseman, yeah. Okay. And it was great. I loved baseball. I got hurt, and then during that time, the Lord really started to work in my heart. I was reading Christian books. I was really reading the Bible a lot more, praying a lot more, and really starting to like share the gospel with people and just loving it. And through a long story, the Lord worked in me and gave me a desire, that's what I would say, for ministry. Such a profound desire for ministry that I thought, I can't do baseball at the same time. I want to go all in on this. So I want to like start Bible studies, and I want to be more committed to my church, and I want to really focus in on it.
And rap.
Yes, that's right. Took a little detour into Christian hip hop.
How old were you when you wrote your first rap?
I think I was 14. I started recording when I was 14. It was wild.
Great.
Yeah. And so I started really focusing on ministry. I would say that I got the desire for ministry. And I think that's the kind of like first step of calling is 1 Timothy 3:1. Anyone who desires to be an overseer, like aspires to a noble task. And then the next probably 10 to 15 years of my life it wasn't like a formal process, but I think it was that call being evaluated and affirmed. And so I was in my church, I was serving, I would get random opportunities to teach things. I went to Bible college. During that, I'm serving at my church. I'm just trying to discover my gifts and exercise my gifts. And I had people affirming that or correcting me or helping me go in the right direction that they think I should go. I had mentors who were investing in me. And then started getting really serious and intentional about I'm pursuing something specific, pastoral ministry, and started talking to other pastors about that in my church. And they affirmed that after testing and observing me. And then the last thing was opportunity and fruitfulness. I think this is one that gets missed, is you can have a deep desire for it. There can be other people that affirm that call to you, but do you have the open door to do the ministry? And then when you do it, are people blessed by it? Are God's people built up by it? Are God's people encouraged? Are people convicted of their sin? Are people getting help in their marriages? Are people changing? Are people growing? Are people being helped by your ministry? So that was my journey, was going through college, trying to take every opportunity I could to do it, and then to say, okay, not just how did that go, or was that hard, or was that easy, but saying, what's the fruit of all of this? And I'm not evaluating that on my own. I'm having other people of, hey, is this fruitful? Is this working? And in the context of the church and the context of friendships, that the Lord affirmed that call, and then you make a commitment to do it. And so when I talk to guys about calling, those are the three things I talk about, which aren't original to me. I mean, this is something that guys talk about in ministry. Is there's the internal call, right? You have to have an aspiration to do it. There's the external confirmation of the call. And then there's just this, I don't know what to call this, but just the evaluation of fruitfulness and an opportunity to do it. So that was my story, and that's what I talk to people about now.
I think I would say mine's been more difficult than that. So I knew Spencer back in college, and you know, Spencer is one of those guys. You won't like this, but I would say like it was very clear that he was going to be in ministry, and a lot of that was just the work of the Lord, like the way He captured your heart at a young age. And I think mine was way more difficult. I'll come to you in a second, because you really helped me. At least I asked you a really hard question years ago. I don't know if you remember that.
I do remember it.
But I in high school, long story short, is two things happened. One, I got saved, and my love for Jesus and the church exploded. But number two, I started taking all these business classes, and I became obsessed with like business and making duct tape purses and wallets and selling them. And I like went home at
Anybody
nighttime.
been obsessed with making duct tape purses in now?
And so,
Missed that obsession.
so I didn't do homework at nighttime. I made stuff to go sell at school the next day. And so in high school and in college, there was this, I love Jesus and I love the church and I want to serve the church and I love business. And honestly, for years, those things felt at war in my heart. I think part of the reason I really struggled with calling, there was a moment, I remember my Baptist church that I went to often did stuff with the Methodist church down the street. And I remember being at their church service and getting on my knees at the altar and surrendering to ministry.
How old were you when that happened?
That was probably like 15, 16.
Okay.
You know, so I got saved at 14. And by the time I was 15, 16, I was surrendering to ministry at the altar during a youth event. And then I actually wonder if I got bad advice. So here's some of the things I heard from other pastors. You better know for sure that you're called, because if you're not for sure called and you enter into ministry, that's a really dangerous thing. Or, hey, you really need to make sure that this is really what God's doing, because when you go into ministry, you have a really big target on your back and Satan's coming after you. So I heard like really intense things like that I don't think they made me like pivot completely away from thinking about it. But this whole thing of like, were you really called, really became a problem for me for years. And there's definitely multiple milestones, but one was we were visiting. So Heath was professor, because I went to Bible college, but even in Bible college, I wasn't sure, am I supposed to be in ministry? But then also friend. And 1 year we were traveling from Kentucky to Florida. We stopped by to see how you guys were doing. And one night we were talking.
And you asked me where babies come from.
And I...
But that's you probably want to ask the question you asked after that.
And so I had been coming off of a week of doing ministry at my father-in-law's church, serving, and there was just something happening in my heart. And I think the way I posed the question to you is, if I am qualified to be in ministry according to the Bible, and other people affirming that, and I'm gifted for ministry according to other people, is it wrong to not be in ministry? And I'll let you answer that, and just maybe you could talk about how you helped me with that. If you remember what you said.
I think I remember what I said. If I get it wrong, you might have to correct me. There's clearly some kind of line between that conversation and you being here. So hopefully.
How did you answer the first question?
Well, that's next week's after.
Okay, excuse me.
Yeah. So if memory serves, I think I said, in fact, let me say what I would say today, and you tell me if I've changed. I would say, if you're called to ministry, people say you're called to ministry and you don't want it, is that a sin? I would say, I don't think maybe it is a sin, because I don't think it's a sin to not go into ministry. It might be a righteous act to not go into ministry if you're not qualified, but I don't think it's a sin for a qualified person to not want to go into ministry, but I don't know why you wouldn't want to. I don't know why you would want to have the opportunity to do the ministry of the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, the most important work in all of eternity. Heart surgeons don't have anything on us. Presidents, kings don't have anything on us. We are doing the work that matters for forever. If you have the opportunity to do that, you're called to do it. And I don't know why you wouldn't want to. Did I say something like that?
That's exactly what you said.
Praise the Lord.
And I think, so I would say for me, stepping into ministry here at First Baptist in some ways was a step of faith, with like the desires were there, but they were confused at times. Because I think another thing that I used to hear is like, if you could do anything else, you should go do it. And I'm like, well, I could go run a cleaning company. I did. And I didn't hate my life doing that. But to your point, Spencer, I think one of the things that happens is over time, as you take advantage of the opportunities that God gives you, is it clarifies a lot. It clarifies desire. It clarifies gifting. It clarifies fruitfulness. And I would actually say that it was more recent more on the back end of being here at First Baptist, so like in recent years, not the front end, that that moment of my heart switching to say, like, I want to do nothing else except serve Jesus Christ and his church. And so I really do think you have to take all those components that you laid out and really put them together to really understand calling. And then obviously it's just going to flesh itself out differently for different people.
Well, even though you're the host and not me, can I ask for a special privilege?
Absolutely.
So you asked the question, what's your answer?
Yeah. So, I remember a distinct moment. I was in college and I felt a strong desire to go into ministry, but I was putting it off because I saw what my dad went through, and
your dad was a pastor.
He's a pastor, and my two brothers wanted to go into ministry, so I didn't want to. And my younger brother wanted to go into ministry, so I was like, it's going to look like I'm just doing Simon Says. I'm not going to do that. But I just felt this crazy zeal to preach and to teach, and I was like, okay, no, I'm not going to do that. But it was actually, I was dressed up in a VBS costume for family night. I was in the wings of the stage.
It here?
No, this is on Maui.
Okay.
And I was gonna do like the last skit, the funny thing, and get everyone laughing. But my brother Van, who's the oldest brother in the family, he gets up and he preaches this like hot gospel presentation. I mean, he was laying it on, going to town. I mean, you guys all of you have sinned and broken God's law, and Christ died for sin. He rose from the dead. You all need to repent. And I remember looking at myself in my costume, my really ridiculous looking costume, and then looking at the guy preaching, and I said, I don't want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do that. And I remember there's this moment where just kind of the lights turned on, and I said, I think I really want to pursue this. And I too went through a period of testing, and people got to see me minister, and they said, hey, we really think you should go get trained. So I left Maui and went to Kentucky, and that's where I met you.
Now here you are.
Yep.
When did it happen for you? Were you in high school?
I was in college.
You were in college?
Oh, college.
Didn't you go to, you studied, were you studying political science
when
you got called?
Yes, I was a political science major in college, and I added biblical and theological studies.
Right.
Just
out of interest?
A double major, just because
Okay.
I wanted to know more about the Bible. And so I was a political science major because I wanted to go into politics, and I was a biblical and theological studies double major because I just wanted to know about the Bible. And for me, it was really weird because all of my friends, I mean, all of them, there might have been like 2 or 3 exceptions, but everybody was like, you've got to go into ministry. You've got to be a pastor. And I was like, I am not doing that. I did not want to do it at all. But everybody kept telling me that I needed to do it. And I thought that was so weird. And then a couple of things happened. One thing that happened is me and my friends were on the beach. I went to a school that was just a few minutes from the ocean. And we were on the beach singing hymns. And I just was like thinking about life and what's important and why did I want to go into politics. And it felt a little selfish and a little attention seeking. And I thought if it wasn't about pride and ego and proving yourself, if I could do anything, what would I do? And the picture I had in my mind. So, the church where I got saved, which is also the first church where I wound up serving as a pastor, long time ago now, but a couple of years after this story that I'm telling happened, I imagined myself walking down the hallway of that church with Christians, and I just wanted to live my life with Christian people. And I was like, and it scared the daylights out of me because I'm like, oh, that's weird. I can't want to do that. It's too hard. I had some stories of some tough pastors that didn't do a very good job and messed up some people, and I didn't want to be a part of that. But I went to the very first mentor I ever had, Bill Barkley, who's my New Testament professor at Gordon. He was my pastor in college. He did mine and Lauren's pre-marriage counseling. He presided over our wedding ceremony, still to this day a good friend. And I went to him because it just was wearing on me. It's like, man, maybe I do want to do it, but how would I know? And I went to Dr. Barkley's office and I said, man, I feel like I'm called to ministry, but I don't want to be, and I don't know how I would know. And one of the most amazing stories of my life, he stood up, walked across his office, opened up a file cabinet, pulls out a folder with my name written on it, and he puts it on the desk. His wife's name's Christy. And he said, Heath, Christy and I have been praying for you because we think you're called to ministry. And we've been praying
That's amazing.
that you would reach out and ask for help about this because we think you're called and we think you're gifted. And he opened up this folder, and there was all these articles that he'd been keeping for me about call to ministry and that kind of thing. And he walked me through, you talked about 1 Timothy 3, he walked me through 1 Timothy 3 and how it begins with desire and it continues with being qualified for the work. There's some people who desire it but aren't qualified, and so that means you're not called. And then, here's the deal. One of the things that is so clear to me over the years is people who are called, there's nobody in the Bible who's called that doesn't have a job. And everybody that's called who gets a job in the Bible, there's always hardships with it. Noah had his tough jobs building an ark. Moses had his tough jobs with the Exodus. The Apostle Paul had his tough jobs being the apostle to the Gentiles. But everybody gets a job, and everybody has difficulty. I think a huge piece of one of the things I think about all the time is a huge piece of embracing your calling is not just what's the path in, but can you be content in ministry? I know so many people who they're sitting around waiting for a job and they don't have it and they're in a bad mood. Well, you got to trust the Lord. Yeah. If the Lord's called you into ministry, He's going to get you into ministry. And then there's so many people who are in ministry, and this ministry's so big and I'm tired of it. Or this ministry's so small and I'm tired of it. That's so true. And it's like, man, if you're called to ministry, you've got to embrace the ministry God has given you and find delight in that. And so the call to ministry really is something that never ends, but it's something all of us, we're going to have to think about when we go to bed tonight, we wake up in the morning, Lord, make me excited. So my calling is to be the senior pastor at First Baptist Church in Jacksonville, Florida. And if I'm really called to that work, then I'm going to desire. That doesn't mean there's not hard days, doesn't mean there's not times of trial. But I got to be really, really excited about the ministry the Lord has given me right now. And if I'm not that way, or if I can't get that way, then I might not be called even though I got a job.
That's so true. I was thinking about that as you were talking about how there's this formal calling that we've talked about that all of us kind of went through in one way or another. But there's also this like continual calling of ministry that happens where I've looked at men before and said, you have to love the work. It doesn't mean it's not hard, but it does mean you just like, I love these people.
Right. And there's not seasons where it's like I need a break for
that's
a
right.
while.
Of course. All that's true. Yeah. But it's the contentment in the work of I'm not looking to build my own platform. I'm not trying to find something else to do. I don't think that if I just do this other thing, then I'll finally be happy in ministry. There has to be a real, just continual embrace of the call that you've been given. And Lord, help me to be faithful to do the ministry you've called me to do.
That's right.
It's great, guys.
It's good.